Hi boys, we're going to look at question 32, which was the second part of the sports medicine section, where there were 15 marks. Part A of this particular question was a 5-mark question, and it was explain the sports participation options available for aged people with medical conditions. The syllabus dot point was specifically adults and aged athletes, and the 3 areas that we needed to be able to refer to and discuss in this response were heart conditions, fractures or bone density, flexibility and joint mobility. And again, the learn to explain the sports participation options available for aged people with medical conditions. These are the things we need to be discussing. The key term, explain, relate, cause and effect, make the relationships between things evident, provide the why and or how. So what we need to show is the cause and effect between the sports participation for aged people with these medical conditions. There were some things that we need to include as we mentioned. Heart conditions, there would be one. Some of the features you need to consider were graduation of exercise and consideration of the intensity of the exercise, so as to not to put too much impact upon the circulatory system, which has been damaged in some way through the conditions of the heart. The prescribed program, you hopefully would have made reference to the prescription by a doctor. So if there's been a heart condition, usually there would be a doctor involved in prescribing of the exercise. So that needs to be considered. Contraindicated, so what are some of the exercises that may not be advisable for someone with heart condition? In terms of fractures and bone density, selection of proper weight bearing exercises. So to look after the joints that have had impact or had stresses put upon them, caution with bending and twisting movements, and you could also consider some of the nutritional guidelines that may have been played a role in this particular part as well. For flexibility, joint mobility, proper intensity of exercise are the things we need to look at there. Specific flexibility exercises were what we would hope that you would consider in your discussion, in your answer. If we have a look at this response, I know it's a little bit hard to read, but this particular response went through the different aspects in an orderly and coherent, clear way that was easy for myself, the marker, to read. Now you can see heart conditions, and there were options given about the different or discussion about what the implications were of the heart conditions on the athlete, the aged athlete, I should say. There was an example, but not just placing an example there. Quite a few boys simply placed an example. You needed to show the cause and effect that related to this particular example that you put down. So why did you choose that particular type of activity? Some of the examples that were placed in responses by some boys weren't appropriate to the condition that may have been impacting upon the aged athlete. The next area in this particular response, you can see flexibility and joint mobility. Again, explanation of what that is. We can see that there's osteoarthritis as a consideration there, so some good terminology was used. Then some discussion about types of activities, but why those activities were chosen. So swimming was chosen here because it adds resistance to the bones, performed at low intensity. So that gives you some justification about why that particular example was chosen. And again, clearly fractures and bone density is the last area of this discussion. Discusses what those types of issues could involve. There may have been hip injuries, fractured hips, there may have been osteoporosis as mentioned here, but there's some explanation, and then importantly there was justification about why the particular example was chosen. And that's probably the area that we needed to improve on most in this particular question. Why boys didn't get their full marks was they fail to show the cause and effect of the condition. So what that condition meant, and choosing appropriate examples of activities that the aged athletes could participate in.